There's anybody else in this house?
I told you there isn't.
There isn't any confusion, or there isn't anybody else?
Either. Or both.
Just give me a clear answer.
Certainly. What was the question?
Is there anybody else in the house?
No!
That's what he says. But does he know? I suggest we handle this in proper military fashion. We split up and search the house.
Split up!
Yes. We have very little time left, so we'll split up into pairs.
Pairs?
Yes.
Wait a minute. Suppose that one of us is the murderer. If we split up into pairs, whichever one of us is left with the killer might get killed.
Then we would have discovered who the murderer is.
But the other half of the pair would be dead!
This is war, Peacock! Casualties are inevitable. You cannot make an omelet without breaking eggs. Every cook will tell you that.
But look what happened to the cook!
Colonel, are you willing to take that chance?
What choice have we?
None.
I suppose you're right.
Bon, d'accord. But it is dark upstairs and I am frightened of the dark. Will anyone go?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Clue the Movie Podcast, where we break down the 1985 cult classic movie clip 1 minute at a time. My name is Brad Gilmore, joined by Jeff Smith, whose numbers just continue to rise. I feel like all the time on Screenbox. I mean, were you at? What'd you hit? What'd you hit? Was 4 the highest?
You're gonna regret saying that. Yeah. At last we recorded, it's 4. We are, for the last couple days as of this recording, we are no longer in the top 10. But that's okay because I'm kind of a number 4 kind of guy, close to the bronze, not quite standing on the pedestal. I'm first place of the losers off to the side.
Right.
Like to say.
And also, like, you don't have to deal with the pressure of being number 1 or 2 or 3.
I no longer, the last couple days that I think today I checked, but tomorrow I probably won't. Screenbox, other than to go onto Screenbox like I do daily to watch the high quality entertainment of other films that are on there. There is a RoboCop documentary that's in 4 parts coming soon called RoboDoc. Very clever name, and looking forward to that. So if you're a RoboCop fan, you're gonna learn about RoboCop on Screenbox.
Yeah, you're right, man. 4 is a good spot because, again, like, imagine you were in the Olympics and you got 4th place for your country. Everybody in your country, they wouldn't be disappointed in you. They say, "Oh man, you were close. You were close. Good job."
I get to walk around in public without the hassle of people knowing who I am or telling me good job or anything like that. I like my anonymous life. I can continue to go out and be myself.
Let me ask you this. As far as the fame of things go, have you ever put any thought into the level, because with any kind of a successful artistry, a certain amount of notoriety comes with it, right? Whether it's very little or a whole lot, like we're talking like Beyonce, Jay-Z levels. Have you ever thought about the level of fame you would enjoy? Like, would you say, man, if I would want to be, I wouldn't want to be any more famous than X?
Oh, like what level?
Yeah.
Like compared to a famous person? I think before we started, we were talking about Kevin Smith and how he was back in the 90s and early 2000s. That was a pretty nice little sweet spot because he certainly had a very loyal fan base that he was very good about. He was one of the first filmmakers that used the internet to communicate with people, and he would do Q&As when he wasn't even showing movies that he made, and just had a lot of stories from that. So I think that's probably nice. To have your little core group, but you don't have to, worry about it everywhere you go. Someone's probably filming you.
Right.
That'd be weird.
Yeah, I wouldn't enjoy
it. You're a local celebrity there. Do you get recognized out in public? You're a recognizable fellow. You got the hair, you got the face, you got the suit.
Yes, I've been recognized, but it's always like the Brad Gilmore, and then like we keep moving.
That's enough.
I think that's a cool level.
I would love that. That's cool that it's your name too, because I would assume I would probably be at a level if I got any more. If I got any, actually, there's nothing. But I like the idea of being the famous person. They don't yell my name, but what it is I do. Like
Clue
I would
Doc.
love to walk down the street and go, Clue Podcast!
Yeah, I would love
Clue
that.
Podcast! Clue Podcast! And I'd be like, I know.
What's weird
That's
about the
what I want.
podcast thing is that people recognize your voice, right, more than your. One time, I won't say what company it was, but I had a subscription to a company, right, and I called to cancel the subscription, and as I'm talking to the person, this is a real story. I'm talking to the person, and then they go through it all, and in the middle of the conversation, they're like, "Hey, you don't happen to be," and then they recognize me from the wrestling show, from the Booker show with Booker, and they recognize my voice. They're like, "I recognized your voice." I was like, "Oh, that's a weird one."
Interesting.
That was a weird
See,
one.
I don't know if I would be that type of person, or I would say, you know who you sound like, because I would never assume I was actually talking to the famous person. I'd say, you've got like a lot of Brad Gilmore energy going on right now.
Oh yeah.
And assume they knew what I meant. Because you do have a very distinctive voice, and you are kind of. I've been working on my Brad Gilmore impression for
I
a while.
can't wait for it.
It's really close. One of these days, I want to do the intro for this podcast myself as you. I just have to write down what you say, because you would think after 45 episodes I would have it memorized. The only part I remember is the classic. Which, as each episode has gone on, you've gotten sharper and sharper with it.
Oh yes.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not even words anymore.
It's very staccato.
Listening to.
But we are in minute 45, Cluvians, of this show, which means, I mean, we're very close to coming up on the halfway point. Which so
We've been saying that for a while.
I feel like we've been saying it for weeks. But what's interesting about it is we still don't know how this show is going to end. We have not discussed it.
Oh, this show, no.
We have not discussed it. We've talked about potential plans of what we might do after the show,
Yes.
but we have not
Another
talked
show.
about how this show's going to end. So just be along for the ride, guys. We do know there's going to be 3 endings, because duh,
Yeah.
has to be.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot
Got some
of
time to
credits.
think about it. But you know what? I keep saying that every time we bring it up. Oh, we got so much time. It's going to be here before we know it. It's all good things.
Jeff, we've almost done this show for a year.
I know.
A year, like 365
I know.
days worth of this.
That's a year.
That's a
a
year,
lot.
last I checked. Unless
Yeah.
it's 24, then it's 366 days in 2024.
Oh, I thought you meant the show 24.
Why would I ever talk about that? Minute
Fun
45.
show. Yes.
Uh,
45.
it starts off still with Colonel Mustard questioning Wadsworth after we had a Peacock freak out. There's a sequel to the Peacock freak out in this minute. And there's, though, some moments of brilliance, I think, both from an acting standpoint and from a character standpoint in this particular minute 45. The first thing I wrote in my notes when watching this minute, you tell me if you agree. So it's in the conversation with Wadsworth and Colonel Mustard, and my one note is Tim Curry excellence. He's just phenomenally.
Yes.
He plays that moment so well. Yes. No. What was the question?
Yeah, I think my favorite part is when he kind of chokes on his own words. It was certainly. What was the question? So I think last week when you read the scripted version of the scene, and it said that Wadsworth was more almost condescending to Colonel Mustard in the script. I think here he is trying to ironically keep up with Mustard's stupidity, in that he wants to be able to answer his question. He just has no idea what this idiot is saying to him, and it's just he's getting lost in it for sure. So yes, and Martin Mull is doing excellent as well too, because there's something to be said about a performance of someone that's unnecessarily confident when they have no reason to be.
Yeah, one of my favorite qualities in any human being is irrational confidence. Not cockiness, but irrational confidence.
It's the kind of person that will tell you directions that are wrong, but they have to be right because they said it so, I guess I don't want to keep saying confident, but they say it so like, yes, this is
Forceful.
the only way to
Yes.
get there. Yeah.
Very
and then
certain.
when you end up in the alley facing the brick wall, and you turn back to them and say, we're lost. They go, oh yeah, I guess. I thought it was this. Whoa, what happened to the person that went? It's definitely 2 blocks down. That's Colonel Mustard. Colonel Mustard would give you very confident bad directions.
But then Colonel Mustard, I actually think this might be the shining moment for the character. This scene right here. As far as it's actually in some ways the most sense that he makes. Again, he's being very detective-like. And honestly, to this point, out of all the characters, doesn't it seem like he's asked the most questions and really tried to figure this out more than anyone else? Because he questions Mrs. White in the kitchen. He's questioning Wadsworth. He has a plan that he's going to devise to try to figure things out. He seems to be the detective in the story.
He's in his element. He's just really bad at it. That's the sad thing. And he comes up with the classic cliche bad idea in a story like this. Let's all split up.
It is the Scooby-Doo theory, right? Like, hey gang, let's split up and let's
Velma and Daphne and I will go this way. Shaggy and Scooby, you go that way into certain doom.
every time.
Always.
What?
Sometimes Velma would go with Shaggy and Scooby, but for the most time, you would think Fred would figure it out and like mix up the group every now and then. But I don't think he wanted to find the ghoul. He knew.
You don't think Fred Jones was about finding the ghoul?
No, he's all talk.
Wow,
Yeah,
I'm a little bit
Fred
thrown
fan.
off. You're not a Fred guy. You're not a Fred head?
No, I'm not a Fred.
You're not a Fred head. That's crazy. I wouldn't have pegged you. You're what? You're more of a Shaggy guy?
Shaggy for life. Yeah.
I understand. I get that.
But the other thing that happens in this that I've always been confused about is when they talk about splitting up. First of all, the line "This is war, Peacock" is great.
Oh, this is war, Peacock.
This is one. There's a group of ladies in the documentary that there's a little montage of people quoting Clue at the end of Who Done It, the Clue documentary, and that's what they choose to quote. We're on the streets in New York after a Clue trivia game, and they've had a few suds, and they were just doing their take on lines, but they very intensely yell on the street. And luckily it was New York, nobody cared. But it's like 2 a.m. and they're yelling, "This is war, Peacock!" And it's wonderful. And then, but look what happened to the cook, poor Mrs. Peacock. But then the other thing is Yvette says, "It's dark upstairs and I'm frightened of the dark," which I always thought was weird because she doesn't know she's going upstairs yet. She does end up in the attic. But she says, when they say split up, she says, "It's dark upstairs and I'm frightened of the dark." Well, maybe you're not going upstairs, Yvette. Calm down.
That's true. Maybe she was just throwing that out like, hey, if we split up, I don't want to go upstairs. Unless somebody goes with me. I don't want to go.
Right.
But she does go upstairs.
So maybe that's a good little set. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, maybe that's a nice little setup. Hey, whatever we do, don't send me upstairs. And then
inevitably you're going upstairs.
That's exactly where she's going. And as the line will continue next week, Mr. Green doesn't want to go with her either. But he might.
But he might. I will say, like, you know, Colleen Camp in this movie, I know some people make fun of her French accent, like it's like not very good. That's what I hear, but I kind of love it. I think she's right on with it.
It's the only French accent I knew growing up, so I always thought it was fine.
What is she? Because I mean, if you heard that criticism of her accent, like I hear that, like I see that. What do you think is the criticism? Is it like it is so like when somebody does an Italian, like Jared Leto in House of Gucci sounded sort of like a Mario brother? Yeah. You know, is it that? Like it's such an exaggeration?
I think that's exactly what it is. It's like it's from living in Boston for 2 years. Now I know the accent very well, and now you will hear people do really bad Boston accents where they have to say, "I'm gonna go park the car in the yard at Harvard Yard," and you're like, okay, that's not what it sounds like. So I think that's, if people have complaints about the French accent, is that it's mon Dieu, oui. You know, it's just very thick, but it's kind of theatrical in the same way that the whole movie feels like a play.
Right.
And you've seen it live on stage, and
I
I've
have.
seen it now live on stage. And I know the Yvette that I saw really laid it on thick as
Same.
far as it was pretty over the top.
Now, again, Yvette in the Clue movie is, to a large extent, not a large extent, but her character is very seductive in the way that she's presented. I guess from a aesthetic standpoint, I'm trying to say it to not be creepy, to where like she's like the hottie in the group. That's what I'm trying not to say.
It's just kind of the outfit, though. She doesn't really do much other than stand around.
Yeah, and at certain times
she's
lean a certain way in order to
but that's when
accent
she's just doing her
job.
job.
But- There was the Yvette in you, because the Yvette in my play, that was very played down. That wasn't really how she had the outfit, but like the kind of sexualization of her was played down, I guess, a little bit. And even the type who played her, the actress, did a great job. Not the same, I guess, type as Yvette in this movie. Was it the same for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think
I just wonder if that's a conscious choice.
They played a joke like when I think if I remember, the play opens with her dusting, and I think she might have done a funny little bend over while she was dusting something on the floor, and that was probably it. But yeah, I would say that the tone has changed.
Now,
the outfit does the work.
When you talked about the this is war, Peacock, and you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. Any cook will tell you that. But look what happened to the cook. It's one of the great Peacockisms in the movie, and like for the audience, like again, if you think about it in front of a stage, that's a line that's going to kill, right? As far as a crowd reaction. But what I loved about this scene, and this is my second note that I actually make after I say "War Peacock smart," which was my Colonel Mustard thing. This moment where Professor Plum steps to Colonel Mustard and says, "What do you mean? If we split up, one of us might be with the killer, and then one of us could end up dead," or whatever he says. Right? I'm paraphrasing. Was the most Doc Brownian delivery. I wrote Doc Brown, which is why it is this week's Great Scott moment of the night. Can I get a Great Scott?
One of us might get killed.
Great Scott!
Yeah. One of us might get killed. It was very Doc Brown, the delivery.
He was channeling. I wonder, since both Back to the Future and Clue are in 85, how much time? Like, I don't know which one. I'm guessing he shot Back to the Future first.
He would have had to shoot it first, yeah.
So, but I wonder how much time.
It could have been a lot.
Between, like it could have been like he left the Point of Hills Mall on Friday and then showed up on the set of Clue on Monday.
I would actually like to know the answer to that, because let's see. I would have to look. It's been a while since I looked at the production schedule for Back to the Future, and I don't remember when principal photography wrapped.
Okay. Oh yeah, we could probably figure it out, because John Hatch, who wrote the Clue book that's coming out in November, he has the entire schedule and was listed on the Instagram page Clue Book 1.
Well, why don't we do some research here?
Sure. I guess we have a podcast. We could.
Well, so can you look that up while I look?
Yeah. Hey, everybody, we're going to search in real time.
Yeah, no, I mean this is what happens. Back to the Future production. When did Back to the Future in production? Maybe is that what I should say? Okay, principal photography began. Let's see, it was scheduled to conclude, but that's not what I'm looking for. Let's see. I think it was after February of 19. Let's see. We're going through this, guys, here in real time, so just bear with us as we look at. I believe now this says it's ended in February of 1985, which one is just nuts that principal photography wrapped 4 months before the movie came out.
Okay. Day one of Clue principal photography was May 20th, 1985.
Wait, May 20th, 1985? So he was probably filming this right in the middle of the release of Back to the Future, because Back to the Future came out July 3rd. Yeah, I mean, it says February. For some reason, that doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right to me, but it could be.
Well, they had the weird schedule because they had to shoot so much of it.
Here we go. Yeah, so that's why I knew it wasn't right. Production completed. Get this. Production completed on April the 20th, 1985.
Oh my gosh.
So
he
a month
really
later. Exactly 1 month later.
No wonder a little bit of Emmett Brown popped into.
Isn't that wild though that the movie wrapped in April of 1985, the end of April, so essentially May, and it was out just a couple months later.
That's
July.
Insane. Well, I'm looking now more at John Hatch's Instagram page, Clue Book One, and even they were shooting Wadsworth Explanation in the dining room on July 12th, 1985. So yeah, I wonder, Christopher Lloyd must have been the belle of the ball on the set of Clue, because they were even filming August 1st.
Yeah.
So while Back to the Future is becoming the biggest movie of the year, they're making Clue, and probably led to the thought on the set of, oh man, this is going to be a huge hit too.
Well, I mean, they were probably all toasting. I wish I would have asked him more about this, but he probably wouldn't have remembered so much. I'm sure 1985 was a complete whirlwind for Christopher Lloyd, just in general. You have the number one movie in the world that year.
Yeah.
That you're the co-star of, like your name's second on the call sheet.
It makes sense now why he doesn't seem to talk about or remember a lot of details about Clue. Now knowing what's going on in his world, I see.
And imagine too. I wonder, man. I wish we had John. Next time we have John Hatch on, which we should maybe schedule him in the next couple of weeks. Let's ask him, did Christopher Lloyd have to take, maybe you know this, but did Christopher Lloyd have to take breaks from filming to go do like promotional events, or did they wrap? Does it say when they wrap filming on there?
Let me see. I don't remember even back then, although I was quite young, so I certainly wasn't staying up to watch things like the Tonight Show, but you don't really see a lot of promotional, well, Christopher Lloyd doesn't do a lot of press anyway, but you don't see like clips of him on Letterman talking about Back to the Future.
Yeah.
August 9th was the last day of filming for Clue.
August 9th. So yeah, this is in the middle of, had to be the press run, and at the very least, he had to be attending screenings.
Yeah. When did they go see? Remember when
the Royal Premiere?
Yeah, you know what I was going to say.
The Royal Premiere.
J. Fox had to go to the bathroom.
Of Back to the Future. Let's see. It's been like years since I actually like looked into these dates. When was the Royal Premiere of Back to the Future? This is I know this is riveting for people. This
I
week.
hope you like Christopher Lloyd, everybody, this week.
Okay, so the Royal Premiere wasn't until December of that year.
Okay.
According
so while
to
Clue was coming
Princess
out,
Diana.
They were in London. Again, shows
why
Christopher Lloyd's head was. I get it.
Yeah, it makes complete
movie
sense.
Of the year of his entire career is happening right there. And then he also made the board game movie that was in and out of theaters
very quickly.
Days. Yeah, so I get it. Kind of.
UK. So yeah, the UK didn't see Back to the Future until December of that year. Wow, I do remember that now that I'm looking at it. Crazy.
All that from him having one line in this movie.
What do you mean? Da da da. But it definitely sounded. It definitely sounded like he was going to go. And if my calculations are correct, if you hit, that's what I felt like he was going for. So, and
how can we split up, Tom? What can be done?
Well, he also has. Christopher Lloyd has such an interesting voice in general. It's a very distinct voice, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's not your usual speaking
funny
voice.
When people. No, it's definitely Christopher Lloyd. If he was on the phone doing customer service.
I
person
need
definitely
to
would have gone.
cancel my
"Hush."
subscription to Blue
Yeah.
Chew.
Right. I am not getting. My Wi-Fi has been very slow. Are you Christopher Lloyd?
Great Scott.
Scott, no. These are kid gloves, Mr. Valiant. But it's funny when people, every once in a while, you'll hear people post, or you'll see people post, I was this years old when I found out Christopher Lloyd was the bad guy in Star Trek 3. Like, was it? I know he's under Klingon makeup, but who else sounds like Christopher Lloyd?
Yeah, I mean, there's
Besides
no one
you,
else.
Brad Gilmore.
Besides me, I'm
Yes,
here.
Or Dan Castellaneta on the Back to the Future cartoon.
Very good pronunciation. That's one I've always struggled with.
Took a stab, and I don't even know if it's right, but I said it with confidence.
It's
like directions.
Irrational confidence, which is what we're about to see on display. Moving further into this here next minute 46. I don't know. Do you have anything else in minute 45 we should address?
This is oh yes. This is another one of those scenes where if you are watching along with the movie at home, this is definitely a minute 45 to look at Madeline Kahn, or you could just follow my personal TikTok page, which is TikTok Jeff Smith, because I made a video that zooms in on Madeline Kahn in this very scene where right before Christopher Lloyd walks up to say his great line, Madeline Kahn is standing behind him and she's picking something off his back. I don't know if it's fuzz or lint or whatever, but when it cuts to him, just as Christopher Lloyd is about to walk up, you see Madeline Kahn doing something, picking something off his back. So again, Madeline Kahn in the background. You should all watch Clue at least once and just stare at her the entire time.
Oh, well, I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to actually have to try that. Now, before we wrap up the minute, I did want to read what was in the original draft, the first draft of Clue. Are you interested?
Yes, always.
Okay, so this is after the yes meaning no that we talked about last week. And so this is Mr. Green chimes in. Well, what do you suggest? The Colonel pulls himself together and takes a swig of his drink. Either the alcohol or the panic seems to have caused his brain to seize up. Colonel Mustard, there seems to be some confusion about whether or not we are the only people in this house. Wadsworth is getting angry now. Wadsworth, I told you there isn't. Colonel Mustard, irritated again. You mean there isn't any confusion or there isn't anybody else? Wadsworth, confused. Either or both. Colonel Mustard, now also confused. What? Wadsworth, you're the one who's confused. Colonel Mustard, then give me a clear answer. Wadsworth, certainly. What was the question? Colonel Mustard, is there anyone else in this house? All say no. Colonel Mustard, still unsure, but he eyes Wadsworth with a steely glance. Colonel Mustard, darkly. That's what he says, but does he know? How can we know for certain? Or maybe he's lying. Wadsworth, why should I be lying? Colonel Mustard is now overwrought. Colonel Mustard, how should I know? Why shouldn't you be lying? Why are there 2 dead bodies here? You got us all into this nightmare. Wadsworth says, I don't know what's going on any more than you do. Colonel Mustard, look, I'm simply suggesting that we handle this in a proper military fashion, split up and search the house. The suggestion causes a feeling amidst the group. Mrs. Peacock, split up? Colonel Mustard, yes. That's what we call search and destroy operation. Mr. Green, well, who are we going to destroy? Colonel Mustard, as if it's obvious. The murderer, if we find him. Miss Scarlet, destroy? They all look at him with suspicion or horror. He sees what they are thinking. Colonel Mustard, no, not literally. We'll hand him over to the police. Mr. Green, that's if we find anybody. Colonel Mustard, yes, now. He looks at his watch. We haven't much time, so let's split into pairs. Professor Plum, pairs? Colonel Mustard, yes. Professor Plum looks around at others. Clearly, he has deep misgivings. Professor Plum then says, wait a minute. Suppose that one of us is the murderer. If we split up into pairs, that means one of us will be left alone with him. Mr. Green, or her. They all contemplate this, and Colonel Mustard seems unmoved by this objection. There you go, and scene.
Wow.
So, I mean, essentially the same.
Yeah, you just tightened it up.
They just tightened it up a little bit.
More tight.
Little tight, toit like a tiger, as they say. But Jeff Smith, man, that is
Yes,
minute
very good.
45 of Clue the movie. And I don't think there's anything else. So we should tell people to watch Whodunit, the Clue documentary on Screenbox. We should tell them.
Please. Or iTunes or Amazon Prime.
Subscribe to this podcast. Go to cluepodcast.com. Send us a message.
Yeah.
And we'll do it.
Didn't have any messages this week, so come on, friends.
Come on, friends. Help me out here.
Cluvians.
Help me out here.
Little star action.
We need your help. So, for Jeff Smith, I am Brad Gilmore. This has been Clue, the movie podcast, and we'll be back next week with minute 46. Clue the movie.